Multiple US military and intelligence officials have publicly testified that Chinese documents reveal President Xi Jinping has ordered the People's Liberation Army to prepare for a military takeover of Taiwan if peaceful unification efforts fail. The US has noted unprecedented Chinese military modernization and expansion, suggesting the PLA could be ready to invade Taiwan by 2027. Military aviation enthusiast Mark reported on his channel Mark Space on the platform Ganjing World. On June 9, 2024, the 80th anniversary of the Normandy landing, a former Chinese naval vessel captain piloted a small boat into Taiwan's Shui River, collided with a ferry, and was arrested. The Chinese man, surnamed Yuan, claimed he sought freedom, but there are concerns that his true purpose might be to gather intelligence for the CCP. The Shui River mouth, the new Taipei Bali Beach, and the Taipei port area he entered are key locations for defending Taipei's political and economic center, known as the Iron Defense Triangle. These areas have been the focus of Taiwan's military exercises against potential PLA landings for years. The PLA might use hovercraft and other light vessels to strike directly at Taipei's center from here. This incident exposed weaknesses in Taiwan's coastal defenses and suggested the CCP might be testing Taiwan's defense capabilities, probing potential invasion routes to prepare for future military actions. This move confirms the CCP's military ambition towards Taiwan and warrants a significant international vigilance. The latest analysis from top American experts reveal a dangerous reality. The CCP is preparing for comprehensive warfare. Former U.S. Deputy National Security Advisor and visiting fellow at Stanford University's Hoover Institution, Matthew Pottinger, recently warned that under Xi Jinping's leadership, along with Russia and Iran, China has formed a new axis of chaos. This concept originates from Mao Zedong's idea that there is great disorder under heaven. The situation is excellent, and Xi believes the current international situation is a once-in-a-century change, an ideal opportunity for his expansionist ambitions. To achieve this goal, Beijing has been actively forming alliances, becoming the top supplier for Russia's war machine and a major economic supporter of Iranian terrorism. They even openly accept visits to Beijing by Hamas terrorist proxies. Pottinger believes that the CCP's intent to overthrow the US-led world order is now as clear as daylight. What is more disturbing is Xi Jinping's ongoing large-scale purges since he took power in 2012, especially his recent crackdown on military leadership. Pottinger suggests this Stalinist purge a shocking signal that Xi is building the precise team to prepare for possible war against Taiwan and the US. This approach highlights the internal flaws of the CCP system and exposes its aggressive military ambitions, which deserve significant international attention. In response to the CCP's growing military power and serious threat to Taiwan, the US is actively formulating comprehensive and powerful strategy. Central to this strategy, US Indo-Pacific Command Head Samuel Paparo has proposed the hellscape concept to deter possible CCP military ventures against Taiwan. According to this concept, if mainland China attempts to send fleets across the Taiwan Strait to invade Taiwan, the US military will rapidly deploy a large number of advanced unmanned combat platforms in the Taiwan Strait area. These include thousands of drones, unmanned surface vessels, and unmanned submarines. This powerful military force, equipped with cutting-edge technology, will create a deterrent effect on the battlefield, buying precious time for the US, Taiwan, and their allies to launch a counterattack. At the same time, the strategy aims to place the PLA in a highly passive and vulnerable situation within a month of the outbreak of war, weakening its ability to launch further military actions. To send a clear and firm message to the Chinese Communist Party, the US plans to use a retired amphibious assault ship weighing 3,809,000 tons as a target ship in the upcoming Rim of the Pacific exercise. This exercise will practice joint strike operations aiming to warn the CCP that the US and its allies will not stand by if peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait region are threatened, and reckless actions will come at a high cost. The US strategy is clear. If the CCP uses force against Taiwan, the coalition primary task will be to concentrate superior forces to destroy the CCP's landing and escort fleets. Should the conflict escalate, the US and its allies are capable of destroying a significant portion of the CCP's naval combat forces in a short time. This strong deterrent forces the CCP to carefully consider the consequences of its military actions or risk catastrophic blows to itself. Crossroads of the World host Tung Hao pointed out in his show on the X platform that since the Korean War in the 1950s, the CCP's military has had little combat experience, especially in amphibious landing operations, where their experience is extremely limited. Amphibious landings are among the most challenging military operations in human history, and once initiated, the attacking side often falls into a meat grinder scenario, suffering heavy casualties. Typically, the attacking force in a landing operation must be 3 times the size of the defending force to have a chance of victory. Taiwan currently has nearly 200,000 regular troops, and by this ratio, the CCP would need to deploy at least 600,000 troops to invade Taiwan. However, transporting such a large force is a huge challenge, not to mention the need to carry heavy weapons, food, and other logistical supplies. Therefore, for the CCP, launching an amphibious landing on Taiwan is undoubtedly a daunting challenge. Historical experiences show that to successfully carry out an amphibious landing operation, gaining control of the sea is essential. During World War II, the Allied forces led by the US secured absolute maritime superiority before the Normandy and Okinawa landings, ensuring the safe transportation of large numbers of troops. Similarly, if the CCP aims to land on Taiwan, it must control the surrounding sea areas of the Taiwan Strait. Without this control, their landing fleet could face devastating attacks en route, making a successful breach landing nearly impossible. Notably, even during the Normandy landings 80 years ago, the Allies paid a heavy price. On the landing day alone, 4,440 Allied soldiers were killed and over 5,800 were wounded or missing. In comparison, the CCP currently lacks many conditions necessary for a successful landing on Taiwan, while Taiwan's defensive capabilities are much stronger. First, the CCP would find it challenging to transfer enough troops to Taiwan quickly. Taiwan has 247,000 active military personnel and about 2.3 million reservists, whereas the CCP's army has 975,000 active members. Even if the CCP could mobilize half of them, of about 500,000 troops, it would still be difficult to achieve a 3.1 troop advantage. Mobilizing more troops would severely weaken the defense of various regions. Also, Taiwan does not have vast open beaches like Normandy for the CCP to land on, and the CCP's current landing ships can transport only about 20,000 troops at a time. More soldiers would need to use small boats, but suitable landing points in the Taiwan Strait are scarce, and effective support is difficult. This makes these soldiers mere distractions, and what they would embark on is essentially a suicidal mission. Though the CCP might mobilize thousands of civilian ships for the landing, its navy is far smaller than the Allied forces of the past. Even if the CCP's civilian ship numbers match those during the Normandy landings, the travel distance would be more than doubled. Moreover, the CCP has too few warships to provide effective fire support, and their artillery capabilities are limited. The more advanced O-55 and O-52D destroyers might carry some land attack missiles, but would likely target military bases in eastern Taiwan, such as Hualien, rather than beachhead positions. The CCP Air Force would face significant challenges in Taiwan Strait conflict. Fearful of Taiwan's powerful air defense missiles, the CCP's 100 H-6 bombers would avoid crossing the Taiwan Strait for large-scale air raids. Main fighters jets like the J-16, J-20, and some Su-30 and J-11 would mainly engage in air battles with Taiwan's Air Force in northern Taiwan to cover the landing fleet, making ground attacks difficult. The CCP might attempt to seize air superiority in southern Taiwan, sending H-6 bombers to circumnavigate from the south and some fighters to operate in the southwestern airspace near the Bashi Channel to distract Taiwanese forces. However, facing intervention from US-led coalition, the CCP Air Force is at a significant disadvantage in both quality and quantity. The actual number of combat aircraft available for airstrikes is far below the claimed 2,200. With insufficient airstrike capabilities, the CCP mainly relies on missile attacks from its rocket force and saturation strikes from long-range rocket artillery, supplemented by drones. However, experiences from ongoing Russian-Ukraine war shows limited effectiveness, with Russia having fired over 8,000 missiles at Ukraine with little impact. Reports suggest North Korean missiles provided to Russia have only a 20% hit rate, and CCP missiles likely fall between North Korea and Russia in accuracy, limiting their effectiveness against Taiwan's beachheads. The CCP also boasts of its long-range rocket artillery with a range of 400 kilometers, but to increase range, warhead weight is reduced to around 150 kilograms, insufficient to destroy fortified positions, and far less powerful than the 300 to 400 millimeter naval guns used during the Normandy landings. The CCP claims its guided rockets are more accurate than missiles, but if true, their cost will likely match that of missiles. In that case, they might as well directly develop missiles. Currently, the CCP's plan to land on Taiwan severely lacks the effective air and naval fire support, making it difficult to suppress Taiwan's defenses. To compensate, the CCP has equipped its ZDT-05 amphibious assault vehicles with 105mm cannons, but these vehicles have weak armor, making them vulnerable to javelin missiles, tow missiles, and tank fire. Additionally, if the CCP sends light infantry on small landing craft from multiple directions, they would face Taiwan's 1,000-plus tanks and over 2,700 armored vehicles along the coast, along with up to 9,000 Humvee assault vehicles, which is essentially pitting flesh against steel. Taiwan has over 1,000 tanks positioned along its coastline, capable of directly targeting any CCP landing ships and amphibious vehicles attempting to approach. Taiwan's military also has 61 Cobra attacks helicopters and 29 Apache helicopters, posing a significant threat to landing forces. These are defensive assets which allies did not have during the Normandy landings. Furthermore, Taiwan's F-16 fighter jets and drones can launch airstrike against the CCP fleet, and shore-based anti-ship missiles can directly hit CCP warship, creating a multi-layered strike system. The CCP's freedom of action around Taiwan's sea and airspace was significantly restricted. Given the current military balance, a full-scale CCP invasion of Taiwan would be costly. The CCP faces significant gaps in air superiority, long-range firepower, and amphibious landing capabilities compared to the US and other developed countries. While Taiwan's military is well equipped, its defense are tight, and its counter-attack capabilities are formidable. For the CCP to achieve guaranteed victory in the Taiwan Strait, it needs breakthrough in multiple key areas, making an invasion highly risky and costly in the short term. Historically, large-scale amphibious landings, even when initially successful, rarely achieve swift strategic goals. The Normandy landing was the largest amphibious operation in history, with Allies succeeding on the first day and casualties lower than expected. However, the overall plan was not completed on time. By the end of June, the Allies had landed 875,000 troops in Normandy, but did not fully capture the strategic city of Caen until July 21st. Therefore, the CCP's claim for a quick victory in Taiwan seems unlikely. The CCP's ideal scenario for invading Taiwan might involve capturing Taipei directly, requiring control of northern Taiwan sea areas. The CCP's landing fleet would most likely depart from ports in Ningde and Fuzhou, the closest to Taipei, but this will make it difficult to avoid the Matsu Island between Taiwan and the mainland. To ensure the safety of the landing fleet, the CCP must need to first capture the Matsu Island, which would likely trigger a naval battle. If the CCP tries to bypass the Matsu Island, its fleet might depart from Zhoushan, the largest naval port in the Eastern Theater Command, to gather in Wenzhou and Taizhou. However, either scenario would double or even triple the fleet's travel distance to Taipei, increasing the risk of attack. If a naval battle, US submarines could enter through the straits between Taiwan and Japan's Ishigaki Island, ambushing the CCP fleet in the South China Sea, the Miyako Strait, and the Bashi Channel. Anti-submarine warfare is a major weakness for the CCP Navy. Meanwhile, the CCP fleet might also face attacks from Taiwan's Navy frigates and missile boats. The 4 Keelung-class destroyers, which is the main force of Taiwan's Navy, might be preserved after the outbreak of conflict. Nevertheless, some of the 10 Chen Kung-class frigates and 6 Kangding-class frigates equipped with anti-ship missiles Xingfeng 2 and 3 might engage the enemy in northern Taiwan and the Matsu Island. In addition, Taiwan's Navy has many missile boats equipped with Sunfeng missiles such as the Qing Chang class, Tuochang class, and Quanghua 6 class. These small, fast vessels can launch surprise attacks on CCP ships, potentially damaging destroyers, frigates, and large landing ships of the East Sea Fleet. If a landing ship is hit, the CCP will struggle to quickly replace it. While the East Sea Fleet might receive limited support from the North Sea Fleet, its overall combat power will decline. Taiwan's Navy will also face losses in a sea battle. However, if they can significantly damage the CCP fleet, it will greatly reduce the pressure on Taiwan's subsequent defense against landings. Early aggressive actions by Taiwan's Navy could buy valuable time for defensive preparations on the island and potentially disrupt the CCP's offensive. Of course, the outcome of naval battles is closely tied to air superiority, making air battles and airstrikes crucial to the success of any landing operation. Even in the relatively narrow Taiwan Strait, the CCP's amphibious force faced significant challenges in conquering Taiwan. The distance across the strait is shorter than the English Channel faced by the Allies during the Normandy invasion, but Taiwan's military equipped and training are far superior to those of the German defenders in World War II. The involvement of the US military would also significantly constrain and weaken the CCP's military capabilities. Therefore, a swift victory for the CCP is unlikely, and any conflict in the Taiwan Strait could turn into a prolonged war of attrition. CCP fighter jets would struggle to break through the first island chain and threaten US bombers. They would mainly engage US F-22 and F-35 jets entering the first island chain while also contending with Taiwan's F-16Vs. The limited number of J-20s must also cover the Yellow Sea and South China Sea defenses, making it impossible to deploy them all to Eastern Theater Command. The J-16's primarily 4th-generation fighters are at a clear disadvantage against the US 5th-generation fighters and are unlikely to win in air battles. Consequently, CCP fighters would be too occupied with air combat to focus on airstrikes against Taiwan or provide effective support for landing operations. Taiwanese fighters will likely carry Harpoon anti-ship missiles and work in the US forces to attack the CCP fleet. If CCP warships are hit by anti-ship missiles, they will lose their air defense capabilities and be unable to fend off precision-guided bombers from the US and its allies. The US is developing thousands of drones which will pose a significant threat to CCP warship. Even a small number of these drones could accelerate the destruction of the CCP's East Sea Fleet and landing fleet. Under the dual pressure of US anti-ship missiles and airstrike, the CCP Navy is likely to suffer heavy losses. The CCP's North Sea and South Sea Fleet each have one aircraft carrier which might move to the Philippine Sea east of Taiwan before the outbreak of war. However, compared to the complex naval environment within the first island chain, naval battles outside the island chain would be simpler for the US. The CCP's carriers in the Philippine Sea would be isolated, difficult to resupply, and their impact on the Taiwan Strait conflict would be limited. If the CCP rashly invades Taiwan, it will risk losing all its large landing ships and having its main naval vessels sunk by the US. After the conflict, the US might destroy any remaining ships in CCP ports to ensure the CCP Navy loses all combat capabilities in the Western Pacific. Key shipyards in Dalian and Shanghai could also become US bombing targets, sabotaging the CCP's ability to build new ships. Furthermore, if the CCP Air Forces loses air battle over the Taiwan Strait, its remaining aircraft might retreat to inland bases for safety. In contrast, the large, hard-to-hide CCP Navy ships would be left exposed, becoming prime targets in the war. Facing the US, which has the most extensive experience in amphibious operations globally, the CCP attempts to engage military in the Taiwan Strait would be a foolhardy move, leading to self-destruction. Beyond military consideration, the CCP faces enormous risks politically, diplomatically, and economically. If it starts a war over Taiwan, it will inevitably become an international pariah, facing comprehensive sanctions and isolation. The US and its allies would likely impose a total economic blockade, cutting off strategic materials and energy supplies, paralyzing China's financial system and pushing its economy to the brink of collapse. War's massive casualties and economic losses would spark public discontent and resistance. Additionally, Xi Jinping's political rivals could seize the opportunity to challenge his decision, leading to a political crisis. From a military perspective, even if the CCP manages to land in Taiwan, it would face intense urban warfare, and in turn pay a heavy price. Taiwan's military and civilians are determined to defend every inch of their land, rendering the CCP's lightning war strategy ineffective. Moreover, if war breaks out in the Taiwan Strait, US and allied attacks on the CCP would be more limited to the vicinity of Taiwan. The CCP's military presence and strategic interests from the Diaoyu Island to the South China Sea, from the Korean Peninsula to the Indian Ocean, could become targets of the coordinated multinational response. This chain reaction would inflict devastating blows on the CCP in military, politics, and economics. Therefore, for the CCP, acting cautiously on the Taiwan issue and avoiding military confrontation is the wise course. Seeking reconciliation and unification with Taiwan through peaceful means under the one country, two system framework is far more constructive than a disastrous war. After all, war is never the best way to resolve disputes. It only brings death, destruction, and unpredictable catastrophic consequences. Of course, this does not mean the international community should be complacent about the CCP's ambitions. Instead, the US and its allies should continue strengthening their military presence in the Indo-Pacific region, solidify security coordination with Taiwan, and enhance joint combat capabilities to deter the CCP's recklessness. At the same time, they must keep political and diplomatic pressure on Beijing, urging it to resolve differences through verbal means and maintain peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait. Only if the CCP makes the right choice between peaceful unification and military invasion can cross-strait relations see a new dawn. Otherwise, Xi Jinping will not only be remembered as another warmonger in history, but will also have to pay an unbearable price for his reckless decisions. Will the CCP taking corrective measures on the Taiwan issue and promptly returning to the path of peaceful development might be the last opportunity to save itself.